Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Jill Lublin, who is a 4-time best-selling author and international speaker on the topics of radical influence, publicity, networking, kindness, and referrals. Jill, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here.
So I love that whole string of, kindness and referrals, because we could probably talk for 4 sessions on how kindness leads to referrals because people feel appreciated. So let's just kind of jump in with your background. Give us a little bit of a snapshot of what your career background is. I know you've got a very vast and storied past, so bring us up to speed, and then let's talk about some of the projects you're working on currently.
Sure. Well, I actually started my publicity career in the music business, which was great training for perception because, frankly, the music business is all about perception. Taught me really about that and stayed in the music business for probably 5 years or so and opened up my own PR agency for a while. And then when I got tapped to write my first book, Guerrilla Publicity, I was able to switch everything into consulting, and now I teach virtual publicity courses. And then one book led to another. My latest book is called The Profit of Kindness, which has been a lot of fun to promote and talk about and create a kindness movement around. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and we'll dive in deeper on that. And I think that you can never go wrong being kind. And it just reminds me, I'm certain you've either read or spoken with boy, why is the name leaving me? The Go-Giver, Bob Burke. So the Go-Giver movement is that being of value and giving and serving and even giving results in advance before you even ask for something. And I think that, even in your bio, having kindness, that actually comes before referrals. And you probably strategically put it that way because you can't hold your hand out and say, hey, yeah, give me some referrals and then I'll be nice to you. You've got to have that to be your overarching, approach to business. So let's talk a little bit about that. And how does that tie into your new book?
So, it's interesting when I interviewed incredible, fabulous businesses, everything from small to larger, for the profit of kindness, what I found was that as companies are kind, that, of course, cultures inside of them, employees are happier, their customers are happier, individually they're happier, and consistently the companies did better, meaning revenue-wise. And, what I'm finding, and the thing that I like to promote, is practice a conscious act of kindness every single day.
Yeah.
That's important, and that really works. So that's some of the things I found.
And it doesn't need to be big and, earth-shattering. I think that too many times we feel like, I got so much going on and now I've got to stop and do this whole thing. And sometimes it can just be a smile. Sometimes it could just be a text to someone you haven't spoken to in a while, and you heard through the grapevine that they were going through a tough time, so you just text a encouraging word. So I think that that's something that needs to be thought of. Is it doesn't have to take a lot of time, and then when you get into that habit, then you're perceived and seen and known as that person, that company that is doing those kinds of things. And I think that really, it kind of gets down to that old saying, people want to do business with those that they know, like, and trust. And that ties into that.
Absolutely. And staying consistent and persistent in that is important. This is not a, one time I'll do it and then I won't. This is a consistent focus, as is your PR.
Yeah. Well, and let's dive into PR, because I feel that you kind of want to teach people how to do it consistently and persistently, like you said, because I see this a lot where you look at, we could talk for an hour and a half on SEO, search engine optimization, and keywords, and that's a whole industry in and of itself, and some companies need that, but many and most, personal brands, hey, I'm a coach and I'm a business owner and I'm a consultant. they might not need SEO as much as they need to have their own personal brand visible online. And when you Google their name, what do you see? And if you saw that mention in the media in 19 whatever, it's like, come on, you've got to be consistent. So talk a little bit about that PR, publicity, public relations, what that does to the personal brand, and then how to stay consistent so that you have that visibility working for you.
So you want to be using PR. You've got to think about who is purchasing your service, whether you're a coach, consultant, whether you have a product or service. The question is who's buying your service. And then you want to track what are they reading, watching, and listening to, right? And so that's a real key. And then it's easier to figure out what the actual media list is, right? And that's really important and fabulous to do. So I think it's a key that you're zoomed into the target market first. But hey, listen, I think all publicity is good publicity, right? And if you get in the media for something else, I like to call it use everything you've got. Use everything you've got, Yeah. So depending on what's going on in the news, my relationship experts are talking about how to have a relationship in pandemic times, or my parenting experts are talking about how to parent appropriately, along with school and everything, all the other stresses. So you just want to look at everything that's going on and use all aspects.
And does that tie into, I remember a couple years ago, I interviewed David Meerman Scott on newsjacking. So, it's newsjacking feels like this, up in your face kind of a thing, but really it's just taking advantage of current trending topics, right?
Exactly. Current trending topics. It's call it what you will, but the truth is it's using the aspects of what's going on in news right now, so that right now you're most current, and that's really important.
Yeah, because you could potentially, and now you can get really crazy, and I've heard, I don't know, this one example sticks in my mind when some president in years past was, waving from Air Force One and going on some trip, I think it was Australia, and he was going to go on a safari, let's say, and this insurance company, used an approach where they used that news story and then submitted a press release saying, President leaves for Australia on a highly, dangerous trip, but our insurance could protect people like him who, we can. So, I mean, you can get kind of a little crazy where people go, that was kind of a stretch. So what do you do when you advise people to watch for these topics? How do you tap into that without making it too much of a stretch to say, come on, that was just kind of a little much there?
Well, you know what? Here's my truth. It's never a little much. So here's the reality. If you get in the media with whatever story gets you in, what's super about that is then you've got, shall we say, control. That now it's your story. Now you can control the media, create the message you want. But the point is you got to get in. They got to hear your name. Yeah. They got to introduce you, right? And so that's important, right? And that's a real key. So I call it use everything you've got, and I don't care if you get in because of away from an Air Force One plane.
Yeah.
Or using, I had a financial planner whose wife had breast cancer, and in October he got in Breast Cancer Awareness Month, talking about, what it's like to be a spouse and how do you deal with this.
Yeah.
And that was interesting.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. That's really good.
So you just do whatever you want. And get in there. That's the point.
It really is, because then it gives you that ability to communicate it to your target audience to go, hey, it was really cool to see my piece picked up in. And it gives you something more than just, here's my latest blog post. So talk a little bit about what I've come to across this phrase in the last few months, and it just really resonates with me. The medium is the message. Meaning you can say whatever you want about, like your example about the financial advisor. He might have great financial advice, but the fact that he says it on some WordPress blog that anybody can do, or he made a Facebook post, anyone could do that. But he made those comments in a media piece that got picked up. Now I'm going to sit up and take notice to that. So let's talk a little bit about the credibility that brings to your personal brand or brand by being picked up and seen in the media.
The credibility, number one, the power of what publicity does is it brings you immediate ROI. I've seen it consistently. So, for instance, we're driving prospects to you. We're driving, of course, they turn into actual profits. And that's a key for business success. It fills your pipeline, right? And keeps you consistently attractive to people, meaning familiar. And I think these things are just so important, that consistency of your name recognition, that trust factor that gets built, and the credibility, of course, and the visibility. And the other thing is it's leverage. It's such good leverage. And I think that's a really important point, that you can always consistently say, I've been featured in, and other media pays attention because they're a bit incestuous, I guess is the word, in that once you've been on one, they know that you must be good, and then all of a sudden, other things happen, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's true about media, is they are looking for good guests, people who can speak well, and if you can do that, that's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Hey, one thing I'm sure people have maybe mentioned to you, but it comes to my mind. When you want to say you should be getting publicity so that people see you as an expert and authority, so that you can build your business and get new clients, all of those normal things. What do you say to someone that would go, yeah, but you know what? My prospects that might see all that, they might think I'm so far above what they could afford. Like anybody that I could afford is not going to be in that media, so I'm not even going to reach out to them. What do you say to someone that should be building their expertise through publicity and many other channels, but they don't want, you need to help them understand that you need to be seen as that, and don't worry, people aren't going to avoid contacting you based on their assumption that you might be too expensive. They want to work with experts, so they're going to, have more chance to reach out than if you weren't in the media.
Well, first of all, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. I mean, I've had, one person coaching featured in an ABC radio special, and, all of a sudden that drove her business. We're not concerned as much, shall we say, what other people are thinking, besides the fact that because of your being in there, you get a certain cred that just accelerates who you are and what people think of you. And the reality is, whether or not they see it, the point is you can leverage it, brag about it, have it, and there will be many people who will say, wow, that's what's key, right? That's important.
100%. So let's talk a little bit about your course that you teach people on publicity. What type of topics and how in-depth is that?
So what I'm really big on is helping people to create big visibility without spending a fortune. I do all this based in my book, Guerrilla Publicity. And so I started teaching a virtual publicity course, which is get it done, no nonsense. People actually write documents they need for the press in the course. And I'm really big on creating an ongoing visibility campaign with real-world ways to do it and inexpensive ways to make it happen. And so I've been doing this now, the course at least 8 years, and I've pandemically priced it now and made it really affordable so that people can really come in and get their publicity done, because that's my commitment, is for messengers to get their message out.
Yes, that is so important, because I love your point about pandemically pricing, and at the time of this recording we're dealing with the pandemic, and the interesting thing is you should be sensitive to the market no matter what's going on. And once the pandemic is moved on past, guess what's going to happen? You're going to catch your breath, and then one day wake up and there's something else we have to deal with. So our businesses need to be dealing with and aware of whatever's going on to be sensitive sensitive to the pricing. But I would say that you would be teaching in that course, your pricing can be just a touch more generous and a little bit more higher because you are building that, relatability through the press and the media, as opposed to trying to be rock bottom, all things to all people.
Exactly. Good. Yes, I love that way you said that. Beautiful.
So what do you find when you have someone that is looking to build some of their media attention? What are some of the mistakes that people tend to make that you're noticing, and then how do they fix that?
So a couple things. One is the mistake is not doing anything. So I'm just going to say that. You've got to create a visibility, small campaign, large campaign. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but the point is do something, all right? So that's a really important piece. I think the other mistake is that messages aren't correct. One thing I've always been really gifted at, frankly, is helping people with messages. And what I've seen is that people are too focused on what I call I stories versus you stories, meaning how does your clients and supporters and people who are going to hire you, what do they care about? And that's important, right? And so I think that's a real key.
You mentioned that, and I say this so many times. You probably heard it way, longer than me, because I heard this the first time when I attended a Brian Tracy seminar, probably 15 or more years ago. But he said, "Okay, I want to see a raise of hands. What's everyone's favorite radio station?" And they're like, shouting out, "Oh, it's whatever." And he's like, "Nope. It's WIIFM." And people are like, "What?" And he's like, "It stands for what's in it for me." And we need to be remembering that our prospective target audience tunes into that station all the time. They don't care about you. They care about them. And so when we can position our products and solutions as, well, you'll enjoy the fact that this provides you, and you'll really notice that, rather than we have 20 years experience and we have the best product. So talk a little bit about that focus on that message to put it back onto the benefits to the customer.
Well, the first big thing is use you language. That's really important. And use 5-year-old language. So people don't care about your jargon, and they want problem. They want to understand what the problem is, and then they want solutions that actually are solutions for them. Right? And so what that means is you give people real value and benefit. When I wrote Guerrilla Publicity, I was very privileged to talk to media across the world. And one of the things, Entrepreneur Magazine, for instance, said to me, to give value and benefit, right? And that was really important. And in doing that, I also want people to think 3, 6, and 9 months ahead. And plant your publicity garden now, because that's how your publicity garden grows.
Yes. Well, Jill, it's been really great talking with you. Let's wrap up with what's the best way people can reach out, connect with you, pick up a copy of your latest book, and learn about your publicity course.
Oh, thank you. So check out JillLublin.com/publicity is great. And that's a wonderful, free, interactive, and live webinar with me. And if you'd like to talk to me and I can help you, support at JillLublin.com is a great place to connect.
Excellent. Well, I'll make sure those links are in the show notes. And if you have been listening to my episodes here, I think this is now just clicked over 525 episodes. So I appreciate all my listeners and would really appreciate just going and giving me a review on iTunes. It's always helpful. If you just visit ratethispodcast.com/influential, I would certainly appreciate that. And Jill, thank you so much for coming on today. It was really wonderful talking about the industry of publicity.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.